Hello and welcome to this special video edition of FEJ Excellence Week. Delighted to be joined today by Peter Galliford, Commercial Director at Mechline, who is here to talk about some of the key issues around kitchen safety and kitchen hygiene. Peter, let's kick things off by talking about these two very key areas of commercial kitchens. They're areas that operators have always paid a lot of close attention to, but clearly in the current climate, they're even more pertinent areas that operators need to focus on. What sort of challenges do you think the industry faces at the moment from a cleaning and hygiene perspective?
Good short question. Thank you, Andrew, and thanks for having us on board. So the obvious one right now in terms of challenges, the words we keep hearing are trust, and that customers are going to be in short supply, and they're going to be very discerning about where they may choose to go for food, drink and hospitality, and probably avoiding crowded venues, although those that like crowded venues and atmosphere are probably not going to avoid them. So the expectation demand is going to be really about perceptions of safety and hygiene, whether distance observation is a key issue. And the evidence that we hear that customers want to see is they want to look at processes, they want to see systems, they want to observe people and staff behaviours. And there's also a perception of what's going on behind the scenes. So the whole thing about hygiene, cleanliness, good practice and discipline, this is going to be what's going to be allowing people to make choices. How that then comes into our trade is that for the food service equipment, the OEMs, the design supply market, the need is to help and provide solutions to improve standards, to help operators review procedures and to provide best processes and hardware systems. So that is an opportunity to review, and it's an opportunity to review standards and legislation, so that best practice doesn't become an option. Specifically in our little world, when it comes to hand washing in food service, it still remains the case that hands-free hand wash systems are not compulsory in the UK, simply an option. Other countries it's mandatory, and the one thing we know about food poisoning infections and virus transmissions is just how transferable they are. And so making hands-free wash systems compulsory is not going to reality break any banks or budgets, but as other countries we know only too well, it will significantly reduce infection rates in food service and public areas. That's a huge element for us that should change.
Sure. Mechline obviously provides a range of technology that supports operators in achieving a robust kind of cleaning and safety regime. How has your technology been evolving to meet that demand and that requirement?
Well, I guess in the immediacy of the current pandemic, there are two specific applications. Firstly, as I've just been talking about, we've long championed hand wash hygiene systems, specifically hands-free technologies. It's true that some systems can be very expensive, and also the other end of the scale, some very unreliable. And the last thing you want is a wash hand basin that simply doesn't work. We understand that. For us as an engineering and product design business, we never forget the key to good design being to understand and to have sympathy with the operators and the applications. So for us, the key issues is to make a process simple and easy, and if you do that, there's a good chance that things get done, and therefore to encourage regular use, and ultimately for technology to be very reliable. The Basics range, the new range that we launched a couple of years ago, embraces this. Simple and ridiculously easy to use, easy to clean, very reliable. And also hardware packages that provide the means to simply convert existing wash hand basins to hands-free. So keep it simple, keep it relatively low cost and good value, provide choice. And we've got a few new tricks up our sleeve in the coming weeks, and we'll add to that stable. Secondly, as I know you're aware, we launched at Host at the end of last year, Hygienics, which is an air and surface purification and sterilizing system. Initially, our design brief was to simply introduce what we consider to be a great technology aid to hygiene and safety within food service and hospitality, and also effective odor control. We also discovered halfway through the product design process how the technology could be used to extend perishable food life and to reduce food life. This was food waste, I should say. And this was a significant find for us at the time. And so significant, the reason I'm going to share it is that we commissioned an independent laboratory to carry out tests. And what they found was pretty momentous in terms of their findings. And since we launched Hygienics publicly from the beginning of April onwards, clearly people have wanted to know, in addition, how ultraviolet technology, and I'll come on to explain PCO technologies, deal with coronavirus, because clearly that's the huge item of today.
Sure, yeah, and as you mentioned there, the Hygienics range is a range that you've been marketing for several months now, and obviously takes on much more relevance given the current climate. As you said there, you've made some claims before around its ability to kill off biological hazards, including coronaviruses. How does it actually work for an operator that maybe hasn't seen the system before?
Okay, well, the nutshell question. So, to let sunshine in on the magic, you may wish you hadn't asked, really. So I hope you've got sitting comfy. At the heart of Hygienics, which is a very compact wall-fitted unit that's discreet, you frankly wouldn't even know it's there. But at the heart of the system is a very powerful ultraviolet UVC dual wideband lamp. And there are different size lamps to treat different size areas. The host unit itself doesn't change inside. Now, UVC has been around since the dawn of time, and it's well known for its capacity to sterilize and purify. Indeed, over 100 years ago, it was used to successfully treat tuberculosis. Then we discovered medicine and lots of different medicines to treat it. And you will see in market simply UVC devices. The key addition to the design of Hygienics is photocatalytic oxidation, bit of a mouthful there, and the process that takes place internally inside the Hygienics unit. And courtesy of a catalytic reaction that takes place inside with titanium dioxide covered air plates positioned very closely to the UVC lamps, and we get this reaction going on internally. What the unit therefore creates in terms of an output is germicidal irradiation, photocatalytic oxidation, hydroxyl radicals, keeping count now, it's important, superoxide ions, and very trace ozone, very, very, very low levels, all within bounds and within limits. And this leaves a unit something that's generically called plasma quattro. Now, we know through considerable testing that the technology is highly effective at disrupting and killing bacteria and viruses, and also something called volatile organic compounds. So there's the techie bit, sorry about that. And the key to it though, which explains it, is people asking, how do I know it's working? Well, there are two means for that. One is simply sense, so smelling and indeed sight. We've had interesting feedback in the last 2 or 3 weeks with restaurants that have started to open again, food service operations started to open, and we've had a number of clients who installed Hygienics in their operations before lockdown, and they've made some really interesting remarks going back into the kitchen for the first time. They've said things like, there's a really fresh smell, there's no damp or there's no off odors in the kitchen. The black marks that were in the mastic and that they've disappeared. Cold rooms smell and look completely clean. There's no musty smells, and in the WCs and the toilets, there's a fresh hygienic smell. So there's a sense that you know that something's happening. But then there's the science that proves this out at a different level. You can test the science by using ATP test systems, which environmental health consultants will often use. And we know where people have used these in sites, they've seen an over 90% reduction in the ATP test count, which is pretty impressive. And at a different level with ALS, who undertook the food life testing, what they proved in entirely clean applications and entirely clean cold rooms, we were getting a food life extension of nearly 60% of perishable foods, but the air quality was improved by 76% and surface hygiene by over 50%. And this was in a clean environment before and after. So we know the science works. But the coronavirus question, sorry, you did ask that initially. So nobody, and if anyone says they can, they're lying, but nobody can test against coronavirus specifically, due to the simple fact that the virus isn't available to test in any laboratory setting. And therefore, what you have is the regulatory agencies, such as the US EPA and the European chemical agency testing houses. They have something called hierarchy-based policies. That means if a product has been found to be effective against harder to kill viruses, then it's much more likely to kill a virus like COVID-19. Now, why is that? Why can we therefore come to quid pro quo why it will kill COVID-19? Well, generally what is known about the virus and viruses generally, that outside of the body is they are relatively easy to kill on surfaces with disinfectants. So good contact is vitally important. So the whole hand washing program, critical. But with the coronavirus outside of the body, as with most viruses, they're very unstable, and actually their life cycle isn't long. So even prolonged dry conditions and importantly UVC will do the same thing. They will kill them. So commercial disinfectants, alcohol hand gels, but even simply dry atmosphere and UVC will kill the virus. So the good news is that coronavirus is actually quite easy to kill. What we do know is that what we talked about a little earlier, the technology, photocatalytic disinfection, using titanium dioxide, do you remember that? You took your notes, has been shown to kill a wide range of viruses previously, including human coronavirus, that's SARS. And COVID-19 belongs to that family, but are much easier to kill. So there is good evidence. So the UVC, we know that kills the viruses as well. Have you had enough yet?
Yeah, I was going to say there's some terms in there that would rack you up to big Scrabble scores.
Sorry. It works. It works. There's lots of papers that support this. So for the scientists, there's lots to get teeth into. There really is.
Okay. So your message for operators looking into this system, would you would say that this is a system that supports their existing cleaning protocols and regimes, or is a replacement for?
Absolutely complementary, not a replacement. Cleaning and hygiene regimes are critical, and they always will be. So surface cleaning will always be required. Hygienic simply provides round-the-clock protection and enhancement and gets to places that normal surface cleaning disinfection can't get to. So under work surfaces, difficult to get to floor or wall areas, ceiling areas, handles. And the proof of efficacy and complementary technology is in the ALS report that we talked about, that we demonstrated, or they demonstrated for us, where there was significant reductions in air and surface counts in an already clean area. So it absolutely is about complementary technology.